Peter Pettigrew. I've heard that name before. You guys figure it out later. I have things to do. I'll explain tonight, Derek said, freeing himself from Ernie's grasp and hurrying after the trio. Outside the hall, across the grounds near the greenhouse, Derek saw Harry questioning Hermione. What's going on? How did Peter Pettigrew appear here? Tell me. Ron looked furious. So it was you meddling, Ron bellowed, his voice cracking with fury. I knew it. Your cat wants to kill Scabbers, and you're no better. You're both the same. Get lost, you stupid cat. Crookshanks leapt from beside Derek, landing between them. He crouched low, hissing with disdain at Ron, the fur along his spine bristling. Get it away from me, Ron roared. He kicked at Crookshanks, missing the cat and nearly tripping over himself. How can you be so thick, Ronald Weasley? Hermione screamed, clutching Crookshanks in her arms. Your pet isn't a rat. It's a wizard who can transform with animagus magic. How many times must I say it? Don't give me that, Ron spat, his anger boiling over. That ugly furball of yours thinks the same way you do, eh? It attacks Scabbers nonstop, and you taking 12 classes, winning every teacher's favor. You went to the headmaster to get rid of him too. Happy now, Hermione? Scabbers is gone. That's not the point. Harry's voice broke through, raw and strained, drowning out the both of them. Why has someone who's been dead 13 years come back? What really happened with my parents, with Black, with Peter? Perhaps it was Derek's presence that unsettled them, or perhaps their fury had peaked and begun to ebb, but the air outside the greenhouse fell suddenly silent. Brilliant, Ron said coldly. Harry's got Hedwig. You've got your stupid cat. Your pets are all safe. Only Scabbers is gone, and that, clearly, is the least of your concerns. With that, he shot Hermione and the cat in her arms a venomous glare and stormed off. Harry watched Ron's retreating figure, hesitated, then turned urgently toward Derek. Hermione said you two discovered this, he pressed. Why isn't Peter dead? Why hide in the Weasley family all these years? What's really going on? I'm sorry, Harry. What the headmaster said holds for us as well. Derek shook his head. We only uncovered the truth yesterday. It began with, and Derek recounted the events in detail, explaining everything they had witnessed and learned. So for now, all we know is that the rat is Peter, thought dead for 13 years. Black recognized him and wanted him dead. Beyond that, you'll have to ask the headmaster yourself. Harry buried his face in his hands, disappointment written all over him. Where's Professor Lupin? He was my father's friend. I want to hear it from him. We don't know either, Hermione said timidly. Professor Dumbledore sent him to look for Black. He could be anywhere in the school or in Hogsmeade. Harry began pacing in frustration. Then I'll find him right now, he muttered, striding toward the path to Hogsmeade. This involves me. I need to know the truth. Harry, calm down. Hermione grabbed his arm, eyes wide. Nothing is clear yet. You must stay in the castle. You can't just run off. What if Black? Harry Potter's temper ignited at that word. What if Black? He shouted at her. Can you think about me for once? The firebolt might have been from Black. It might kill me. My parents' deaths might have secrets. Lupin might be anywhere in the castle. Everything's just maybes. Not a single solid truth. And like Ron before him, he stormed away, striding toward the castle. 13-year-olds were truly unbearable. Derek shrugged, indifferent, but then noticed Hermione hugging Crookshanks tight, her eyes brimming with tears. What's wrong? He asked helplessly. Don't take it too hard. They've just lost their heads. Boys this age are impulsive and prone to silly dramatics. I don't understand what I did wrong, Hermione sobbed, tears streaming down her face. I discovered the truth, but they hate me for it. Is that the price of uncovering what's real? Derek had no words. He'd already tried comforting her before. This time, all he could do was urge her not to dwell on it. With the weekend free of classes, Hermione had every reason to cry here as long as she wanted. He could only stay with her. Now was hardly the time to leave anyone alone outside. Sighing, he transfigured the grass beneath them into a carpet, laid a wide circle of warming charms around them, then lay down with his hands behind his head, gazing up at the sky. The heavens stretched clear and blue, dotted with drifting white clouds. A soft breeze stirred the air. Snow at the castle's highest spires melted slowly, revealing the dark stone beneath. For over 1,000 years, Hogwarts had stood through such endless cycles of seasons, while founders, headmasters, even powers like Dumbledore and Voldemort had come and gone, mere passersby in its history, fading into the eternal fabric of the magical world. Derek suddenly felt he was just like one of those melting snowflakes, weak, small, almost negligible, yet quietly part of this 7-year story, at once insignificant and deeply entangled. Last night's thoughts returned to him. Why had he come to Hogwarts, stepping into a novel that already had an ending? At first, he'd been curious, excited, here to observe the protagonist. But now he too was part of the story. He had altered its course. Here he found friendship, knowledge, truth. When the time came for a choice, would he walk away from Hogwarts without hesitation, as he had left Ilvermorny and the law firm behind last year? Or, on the contrary, would he have the courage to stand and fight the final villain? It was a question that would take a long time to answer, but at least, he thought with some relief, he still had a path of retreat to choose. Author's note: many thanks to Lingjazing87 for the landmine. Chapter 20: The Forbidden Forest. In the early morning, a thin mist hung over the forest, frost clinging to the branches. All was silent, the world still, save for the faint, chilly breath of the spring wind. Towering ancient trees transformed the quiet of early spring into a cold, unyielding stillness. This was the forbidden forest of Hogwarts. Even under the blazing summer sun, the dense canopy cast shadows so deep and eerie that fear crept into the hearts of those who entered. Yet here was also a sanctuary for magical creatures. Unicorns, centaurs, thestrals, trolls, all living undisturbed in their natural habitats. Across all of Britain, no place offered them such freedom. Today, however, a wizard stepped into the forest with steady steps, following a path he knew well. Remus Lupin waved his wand, parting a thicket that blocked his way. There was no trace of ordinary fear or caution in his eyes. Instead, there was nostalgia. He knew every corner of the forbidden forest. Years ago, he had roamed these lands with 3 closest friends, turning what should have been the torment of full moon transformations into nights of thrilling adventure. After graduating at 18, he had never returned to the forest, nor had he tasted that carefree abandon again. When he had heard of his friends' deaths, he had been consumed not only by sorrow and fear, but by disbelief. He could not imagine Sirius betraying their friendship, becoming a traitor to the cause they had sworn to uphold. That proud, fearless young man, who had once dared to sever ties with his family and leave home, could not possibly tread the path he had once so despised. Yet the events that followed buried the truth under layers of history. Peter's death, Sirius's imprisonment. Within days, 3 inseparable friends were gone from the world, leaving only him to survive. Over the following decade, a harsh life eroded his spirit, nearly erasing the memories of friendship, loyalty, and unyielding resolve. Last year, Dumbledore had invited him back to teach at Hogwarts. Lupin understood the weight behind that invitation. Sirius' escape had set Dumbledore on high alert. The headmaster wanted the last surviving friend of the Black family to return, to protect James Potter's son. Gone were the past burdens. Last semester, his only aim had been to keep Harry Potter safe. Now, everything had changed. Peter might still be alive, hiding for 13 years. The tragic and shocking deaths of the Potters clearly concealed a secret, and today Lupin was determined to uncover it, to resolve the haunting doubts that had plagued his nights for over a decade. Lupin's keen eyes soon caught a set of paw prints in the distant snow, the very trail of the great black dog he had been seeking. Following the forest's winding path, he pressed onward, guided by instinct. Half an hour later, Lupin found Sirius's hiding place. Hiding place was too formal a term. It resembled more an animal's den. Inside a hollowed tree, filthy clothes were strewn about haphazardly, and outside, a small fire crackled, sparks flickering into the cold air. Suddenly, Lupin spun around, wand raised, and there emerged a figure from the shadows, 5 feet away. A tangle of filthy hair fell to his elbows. If not for the faint glow in his deep-set eyes, he might have been mistaken for a corpse. His waxen skin clung to the skeleton beneath, giving him a skull-like appearance. Yellowed teeth bared in a grim smile, he gripped a long knife in his hand. "Remus, my old friend, we finally meet," Sirius croaked, his voice hoarse from disuse. "I was surprised you came alone. I expected Aurors and Dementors behind you. This makes things much easier. I'm grateful." You look rough, Sirius. Lupin squinted. Azka must have been harsh. You understand madness, don't you? Sirius rasped. For old time's sake, Remus, give me a chance. I need you to hear me out. I escaped here because... For a rat? Lupin interrupted calmly. The Weasley's rat? Sirius's eyes widened in shock. You discovered it, the rat missing a toe. Sirius' face contorted, even more terrifying given the thin stretch of skin over bone. That was Peter, that traitor. Hand him over. I'll kill him. A red beam struck the earth at Sirius's feet, smoke rising from the shallow crater. Professor Dumbledore will check the rat while we talk, Lupin said, wand steady on Sirius's chest. All will be revealed soon, but first, you have to get past me. Who betrayed the Potters? What happened to Peter? Before Peter transformed, Sirius shouted, I cornered him, not the other way around. He screamed so loudly the whole street heard, accusing me of betraying James and Lily. Before I could curse him, he struck the street with a wand hidden behind his back, killing everyone within 20 feet and escaped with the others into the sewers. You were the secret keeper. Lupin's expression tensed. So why? Could it be that? I convinced James and Lily at the last moment to switch me with Peter. Sirius covered his face. I was more conspicuous. Voldemort would think I was the secret keeper. Even if he killed me, it would accomplish nothing. I blame myself. I went to check on Peter that night to make sure he was safe, but he had already gone. I sensed something wrong, feared the worst, and rushed to the Potter's house. When I saw the house, it was destroyed. Their bodies, I knew Peter had done something terrible. I realized the grave mistake I had made. It was as if I had killed them myself. Overcome, he collapsed to his knees in the snow, pounding the ground in anguish. Lupin lowered his wand slowly, throat working as he swallowed. How did you figure it out? Lupin asked, sitting beside him. How did you know Scabbers was Peter? Sirius produced a crumpled newspaper from within his robes, smoothing it before handing it to Lupin. Fudge, he said. Last year, when he visited Azkaban, he gave me this. I saw it. The caption said this boy would return to Hogwarts, to where Harry would be. Lupin immediately understood, pointing to the rat perched on the boy's shoulder. Sirius nodded silently. Big feat. You endured so much, Lupin sighed. You did nothing, yet spent 12 years in Azkaban? Sirius's expression darkened further, drawing him even closer to death-like gauntness. Crouch put me there without trial. Dementors don't care for procedure. Lupin stood, grabbing Sirius's hand and pulling him up. They embraced firmly. It's all past now. Lupin's voice was steel. Dumbledore will catch Peter soon. Your name, your freedom, you'll have them back. You're Harry's godfather, his guardian. You can live together and care for him properly. A genuine smile finally appeared on Sirius's hollow face, as if they were back in their happiest days. Yes, yes, Sirius said, walking beside Lupin toward the forest's edge, eyes alight. After escaping Azkaban, I visited his aunt and uncle. He seemed frightened of me. And during Quidditch, he's amazing, just like James. I even gave him a firebolt. Moony, do you think Harry would want to live with me? Lupin shook his head. Don't be foolish, Big Feet, he said gently. Harry would be delighted. He's been waiting for a magical family. Me, Harry, and you, Sirius's hoarse voice carried hope. I wish that day would come soon. They laughed heartily, laughter full of promise. How did you uncover Peter? Sirius asked. He hid well. Who investigates children's pets? That's another story, Lupin said. A clever pair of young witches and wizards caught Peter's mistake. He lived too long as a rat, and one of them owns a cat. 2 people? Sirius guessed. Sounds like James and Lily. This day feels like a year, Lupin reminisced. You must meet that boy, Derek Greedo. He'll amaze you. When I swore an unbreakable vow with him, I cursed the Sorting Hat in my mind. This boy with the potential to be a great wizard is in Hufflepuff, not Gryffindor. Unbreakable vow? What happened? We're almost out of the forest. You must transform or you'll frighten the students. I'll take you straight to Professor Dumbledore. All right. You'll tell me everything later. Chapter 21, Consequences. For the second time this school year, Harry Potter had become the center of the entire school's attention, the first being when he fainted before the Dementors. More than a few ministry officials had once treated the story of the Potters' deaths as a sort of fireside tale, passing it along to their children. Then, with the dramatic scene in the Great Hall spreading like wildfire, within a single day nearly everyone knew the truth of Peter Pettigrew's past. Now, everywhere Harry went, he endured stares, whispers, and pitying looks. Some older girls, brimming with overflowing sympathy, even sent him flowers. His temper grew short and sharp. After all, when your parents' deaths were treated as gossip to pick over after meals, it was hard to keep one's composure. Ron Weasley, dragged into the spotlight beside his friend, fared little better. It was hard enough for him to accept that his pet had been a wizard in hiding, but to be pitied and fussed over as well only deepened the wound. For the first time in his life, he was the subject of such attention, and all it made him do was mourn Scabbers even more. The result was that Hermione, once again, found herself in a thankless position. Both her friends blamed her, and the cracks between them widened. To keep her from bottling it up and falling ill, Derek enlisted Susan and Hannah to sit with Hermione and work through homework together, hoping some girl-to-girl conversation would help. The price of this arrangement was steep. Derek had to persuade Cedric to sign a whole stack of postcards. The two of them planned to sell them to the girls who admired Cedric, earning themselves a bit of pocket money. "They're still angry with me," Hermione said miserably. "They think it's my fault. They won't even speak to me." "Boys can become ridiculously obsessed with things," Susan said gently. "In time, they'll realize friendship matters more." "Or," Hannah suggested, "you could buy Weasley a new pet. How about an owl? They're intelligent, useful as post carriers, and 100 times better than a rat. If you gave him one as an apology, it would surely work." Hermione looked thoroughly unimpressed. "No, I did nothing wrong. They'll see that." A wizard was hiding in their dormitory, someone with a complicated history with Harry. If he'd chosen to act, he could have put every boy in that dorm at risk. "Your real motive was to win an argument with Weasley," Hannah pointed out with cool logic. "But in the end, he lost a pet he'd raised for years. I can even guess his reasoning. Yes, my rat is an animagus of uncertain intent, but he's lived quietly with us for over a decade. Life was fine until you ruined it." A battle light sparked in Hermione's eyes. She looked ready to argue the matter fiercely. Susan quickly stomped on Derek's foot beneath the table. "What?" Derek blinked out of his daze. "Is it dinner time already?" "No." Susan tapped the table. "I think we're wasting our effort. What Miss Granger needs right now isn't advice or comfort. It's support and affirmation. Clearly, our support won't mend a broken friendship." "Talking to you has helped a lot," Hermione admitted. "Thank you for staying with me. But at least from where I stand, I wasn't wrong, was I?" "I see." Derek rubbed at his brow, met Hermione's steady gaze, and said with deliberate double meaning, "Then let them come to you. Ron and Harry will realize in time that you're an indispensable part of their lives here." "If by indispensable you mean for homework copying, then yes, I suppose I am," Hermione replied tartly. Then she lifted her chin to greet someone behind Derek. "Ginny, what brings you here?" Derek turned to see the red-haired girl he'd glimpsed on the train, Ron Weasley's younger sister, walking toward them. "Good afternoon, Hermione. I was looking for you in the common room," Ginny said, rummaging through her bag. "They said you were in the library." "Who told you that?" Hermione asked sharply. "Fred and George," Ginny said with a sigh. "They're busy trying to talk that fool Ron into buying a new pet. From what I saw, it's not working. He's practically in love with Scabbers' memory." Hermione rolled her eyes openly. Ginny pulled out a bundle of parchment, a few copies of the Daily Prophet, and several books, finally extracting 2 tightly rolled scrolls. "Professor Dumbledore asked me to deliver these. I ran into him after lunch on the 5th floor." She handed one to Hermione, then looked at Derek. "You're Greto, right? We met on the train, though I don't remember too clearly." "That's me, but if you like, call me Derek," he said. "All right then, Derek." Ginny smiled. "This one's for you. Saves me a trip." Unrolling the parchment, Derek recognized the thin, slanting script. He'd received something very similar when he'd gone home over Christmas. "Dear Mr. Greto, if convenient, please come to my office at 10 o'clock the morning after tomorrow. The matter we discussed some days ago has reached its first conclusion. You will see then just how greatly your help has aided an innocent person. Yours sincerely, Albus Dumbledore. P.S. I have a fondness for sherbet lemons." "Looks like things are settled," Derek said after reading. "In 2 mornings, the truth will be laid bare." "Did Ron and Harry get letters too?" Hermione asked Ginny uncertainly. Yes, I handed them theirs in the common room, Ginny replied. I'm worried, though. We're up against Ravenclaw tomorrow. Even with a firebolt, if Harry's mind is all tangled up in this, how will he ever spot the snitch? What? Firebolt? Susan's head snapped around. Potter has one too? Hannah asked, wide-eyed with disbelief. Yes, Harry's got a firebolt too. Ginny flashed a triumphant smile. Now Hufflepuff can't rely on broomsticks to gain an edge, can they? Susan and Hannah exchanged troubled glances, huddling together to whisper. Ginny shot Derek a defiant look before turning to Hermione. Listen, Hermione, I'm completely with you on this, she said. I can't even imagine Peter attacking them in their sleep, defenseless. It's horrifying. You did the right thing. They were just being foolish. Don't take it to heart. Even the idiots who edit the Daily Prophet have more sense than they did. Derek casually picked up the newspaper she hadn't put away. The front page headline blared in bold, inky letters, Recipient of the Order of Merlin, First Class, Back from the Dead. And beneath it, the subheading, Peter Pettigrew found alive at Hogwarts after 13 years, living as a student's pet. Half the issue was devoted to the tale. It was certain by now that hardly anyone in Wizarding Britain hadn't heard. Once you're done reading, hand it back, Ginny said 5 minutes later. I'm saving all of them. News like this is worth collecting. Actually, it's really for Potter, isn't it? Susan suddenly lifted her head. Last year, you practically worshipped him, even tried to start a Harry Potter fan club. Ginny's face went scarlet. She snatched the paper from Derek's hands, swept everything off the table into her bag, and hurried away. Susan and Hannah smirked in satisfaction. She's got spirit, Derek remarked. Looks like last year's ordeal didn't leave her scarred afterward. You've heard about that? Hermione frowned. It wasn't some fun little adventure. Last year was terrifying. Panic everywhere. I was petrified. But it ended well enough, Derek said. And I also found out about Lockhart. Hard to believe you once fangirled over him. I'm beginning to wonder if the Hermione Granger I know is an imposter. Hermione's cheeks flushed crimson like Ginny's. She shot Derek a furious glare, then stormed off with her heavy bag swinging at her side. That weekend dawned as a day of celebration for Gryffindor. At breakfast, they imitated Hufflepuff by placing Harry's firebolt in the very center of the hall. The Slytherin team, normally Gryffindor's fiercest rivals, looked crushed, while Ravenclaw stayed calm. They'd always known their strength couldn't match Gryffindor's. This match is as good as decided, Derek said. Cedric told me Cho's broom is just a Comet 260. The gap's too wide. She has no chance of beating Harry to the snitch. Speaking of Cedric, Ernie said between bites of chicken, where is he? Today's perfect to study Gryffindor's form. If they win, they'll face us in the final. He ran off to congratulate Potter, Justin muttered dryly. Congratulate him on getting a broom that puts his old Nimbus to shame. Zacharias and Ernie both looked stunned. The match unfolded exactly as Derek predicted. Gryffindor played with overwhelming strength, quickly dominating the quaffle. Then Harry outpaced Cho with ease and caught the golden snitch. The only real spectacle came from Malfoy and his friends dressing up as Dementors to spook Harry, only to be blasted away by his Patronus. McGonagall, furious, docked them 50 points. So it's settled. We'll face Gryffindor in the final, Cedric said afterward, gathering his team. The picture's clear. They're powerful. Even though we outscored the others by 220 in the round robin, we can't afford complacency. Training intensifies tomorrow. We'll build tactics aimed right at them. Derek suddenly felt grateful for Professor Dumbledore's invitation. At least tomorrow he'd be excused. Chapter 22, Reunion. On Sunday morning, Derek stood before the stone gargoyle on the 3rd floor, waiting for Harry, Ron, and Hermione. Dumbledore's letter had already revealed part of the truth. Looking at the pattern of the entire year, it was clear. The innocent man was Sirius Black. After 12 years in Azkaban, there was only one person the former fugitive would long to see above all others. His best friend's son, Harry Potter. So Derek chose not to go in early and spoil that long-awaited moment. 5 minutes later, Harry came hurrying up, dragging a reluctant Ron behind him. Hermione followed, her face calm and composed. Good morning, Derek, Harry and Hermione said together. Morning to you three, Derek replied with a wave. Gryffindor flew brilliantly yesterday. Ron answered with a grunt that barely passed for a greeting. You go first, Harry, Derek said, stepping aside from the doorway. You're the most important one here today. Harry looked both anxious and eager, his voice trembling slightly as he gave the password to the Stone Guardian. What do you think we'll find inside? Hermione asked as the spiral staircase carried them upward. Pettigrew's written confession? It couldn't be clearer, Derek answered. If Black is the innocent man, then Pettigrew, who hid for 13 years, must bear the blame. I thought so too, Hermione said with haughty certainty. Pity some people refuse to believe it. Ron's fists clenched tight. At the oaken door, Harry hesitated a moment, then shoved it open. Inside the headmaster's office sat a tall, gaunt man with his back to them. Lupin stood at his side while Dumbledore remained in his usual seat, a cage at his elbow, the same cage that now held Peter in his rat form. I can swear for Harry's. The heated discussion broke off abruptly as the man turned, his gaze locking on Harry. All four children drew in sharp breaths. His skin was waxen, his frame skeletal. If not for the rise and fall of his chest, Derek might have thought him a corpse. For a long, suspended moment, the room was utterly silent save for breathing. At last, in a voice hoarse and rasping, the man whispered, Merlin, you look so much like James. All but your eyes, Harry. Those are. My mother's eyes, Harry cut him off, impatience in his tone. He pressed forward urgently. You're Sirius Black, aren't you? You didn't betray my parents? Never. Sirius rose to his feet, his voice fierce. I would sooner burn in hell than betray James and Lily. I would never sell them out. He strode forward, then dropped to one knee before Harry and pulled him into a fierce embrace. Cruel fate, he choked. All those years at James and Lily's side, yet only today do I see you at last. But thank Merlin, I still have this chance. The office fell into silence once more. Lupin smiled through shining tears, while Dumbledore dabbed discreetly at his eyes. Not until Harry was nearly breathless did Sirius release him. With a flick of his wand, Dumbledore conjured several soft chairs, settling them around. Sirius sat once more, steadier now, and began to speak, of the brotherhood the four of them once shared, of their animagus transformations, of his vow as Harry's godfather, of the Fidelius charm and the secret keeper, of the fatal mistake when the keeper was switched, of how, in Azkaban, he discovered Peter's survival, of his escape and pursuit, right up to this very day. I owe you both thanks, Sirius said to Derek and Hermione. You were sharp enough to notice Peter's oddities. Without you, I'd have been forced to send the cat to steal Gryffindor's password so I could act myself. Before they could reply, Sirius's sunken eyes turned to Harry with raw sincerity. I know what my mistake cost. In a way, I killed them. If you hate me for it, if you want to strike me down, I won't resist. But believe me, Harry, I never betrayed James and Lily. I would rather have died than turn on them. Harry's gaze trembled as he turned to Dumbledore, desperate for confirmation. I swear it, Harry, Dumbledore said at once. Every word Sirius has spoken is true. Peter Pettigrew himself has confessed to the betrayal and the murders. He alone bears the guilt. Harry's throat worked soundlessly before he gave a small, firm nod to Sirius. Chitter! The gesture was like a gavel strike in a courtroom, condemning Peter to death. The rat inside the cage shrieked and hurled himself against the bars in a frenzy. Silence, you filthy, stinking traitor! Sirius roared. If you weren't still needed, I'd kill you here and now. Ron gave a strangled sob. Professor Dumbledore, what if this is all a mistake? He cried, seizing at hope like a drowning man at a straw. Scabbers! Scabbers isn't Pettigrew. He's just my pet. You've caught the wrong rat. Sadly, Mr. Weasley, there is no mistake, Dumbledore said gently. I understand your grief. You lived alongside that creature for many years, and the bond was real, but the truth is what it is. Painful as it feels, it will in time bring us peace and release. Ron buried his face in his hands. Hermione's eyes softened with pity, as though their quarrels over pets had never happened. And Derek, for the first time, felt a flicker of sympathy for Ron Weasley. To the 13-year-old, Scabbers had been a friend, cared for, protected, cherished. In the end, it had all been a lie spun by a cunning wizard. The blow was a heavy one indeed. Do you realize what this means? Black suddenly asked Harry. Once the ministry finishes their confirmation and takes Peter away, you'll be free, Harry said. Yes, well, Black nodded. And as I said just now, I'm your godfather. That's right, Harry replied. James and Lily appointed me as your guardian, Black said stiffly. If anything ever happened to them. His voice faltered, and Harry froze. Of course, if you'd rather stay with your aunt and uncle, I would understand, and Black said nervously. But, think about it. Once I clear my name, if you'd like another home, Remus said you'd long to be part of a magical family. Harry's eyes blazed with disbelief, and Hermione clapped her hands over her mouth. Wait, live with you? Leave the Dursleys? Harry asked. Of course, though I expect you wouldn't want to, Black rushed to add. I'd understand. I just thought I could. Are you mad? Harry cut in, his voice gone hoarse, now sounding uncannily like Black's when they'd first arrived. Of course I want to leave the Dursleys. Do you already have a house? When can I move in? That was what we were discussing before you came in, Harry, Lupin interjected. And here I must side with Professor Dumbledore. I've changed my mind. It isn't the right time. Remus, you should be supporting me, Black snapped. Can't the two of us protect Harry together? Please, Professor Dumbledore, believe me. Harry burst out, jumping to his feet. I'll follow the rules. I won't use magic improperly. Just let me. The two of them turned their hopeful eyes on Dumbledore. The headmaster rested his hands, steepled like a tower, on the desk. Behind his half-moon glasses, his blue eyes were grave. Sirius, you've been shut away in prison far too long. You've missed much, he said quietly. Harry can testify. Voldemort has not been destroyed. He lingers still, stirring trouble, seeking to recover his strength. That hardly matters, Professor, Sirius argued. Voldemort doesn't even have the courage to summon his servants. At the sound of Voldemort's name spoken again and again, Ron and Hermione shuddered. 2 years ago, he possessed our defense against the dark arts teacher, scheming to steal the Philosopher's Stone, Dumbledore said, his voice rising. Last year, he used a diary to control the Weasley girl, nearly causing her death. His magic remains deep and terrible. You cannot afford carelessness. Harry and Sirius both lowered their heads in frustration. There is reason I ask you to return to your aunt and uncles every summer, Harry, Dumbledore said gently. Lily gave her life to weave a protective charm over you. That spell lives on only where her blood still dwells. You've seen its power firsthand. It remains your strongest shield. Yes, Professor, I understand, Harry said dully. I'll stay at the Dursleys' house. I won't sneak off. Though you didn't spend your entire summer on Privet Drive the past 2 years, Dumbledore added, smiling now, and this year you needn't either. 2 weeks, Harry. Stay there at least that long, and the rest of your holiday you may spend as you please. That's wonderful. Thank you, Professor, Sirius cried joyfully. Once those fools at the ministry finish their paperwork, I'll be free to put the house in order. For now, he looked at Ron, still shaken, and clapped him hard on the shoulder. Don't waste sorrow on that traitor, lad. I'll see you get a better pet. Name it, anything you want. Ron lifted his head, his expression softening. And you two, Sirius went on, turning to Derek and Hermione, your cleverness and insight helped us catch Peter. I owe you. Hermione, isn't it? Girls like jewelry, cosmetics, robes, gowns. I'll send you an order form in a few days. Pick anything you fancy, I'll pay. Thank you, Mr. Black, but I don't need those things, Hermione said, flustered, waving her hands. Sirius acted as though he hadn't heard. Derek, Remus spoke very highly of you. But aside from study, you need hobbies. How about a firebolt? The best broom there is. I gave one to Harry, too. Your classmates will be green with envy. Sirius, Lupin cut him off, half exasperated, half amused. They're still children. Children's desires never change, Remus, Sirius said with certainty. Girls always want to look more beautiful. Boys always want the fastest broom to win the girl's attention. Derek and Hermione exchanged puzzled looks, then shook their heads together. Neither found the faintest trace of what Sirius was describing in the other's eyes. Ah, Sirius Black, cling to notions like that, and loneliness will be your lifelong companion. Chapter 23, Preparations. Sirius looked genuinely disappointed when he learned Derek already owned a firebolt. I can't think of a gift for you right now, Derek, Sirius admitted as he waved them off at the door of the headmaster's office. But keep the wish for later. If you ever want something rare, or you're short on gold, just write to me. Don't be shy. Until the ministry handed down its official ruling, Sirius had no choice but to remain in Dumbledore's office, away from rumor and panic. Harry lingered on every glance, reluctant to part, His eyes shone with anticipation of the summer and of finally moving into a home that was his. Thank you. Thank you both, he said earnestly to Derek and Hermione as they rode the spiral staircase down. I'm really going to have a place to call my own. Don't thank me, Hermione said, throwing her arms around him with sudden emotion. I didn't do much. We just stumbled into things. But Harry, I'm so happy for you. If you want to repay me, Derek joked, how about going easy in the Quidditch final? Hufflepuff hasn't had the cup in ages, and Cedric is desperate to win it. Not a chance, Harry shot back instantly. Then, realizing the tease, he grinned. Gryffindor hasn't won since Ron's brother Charlie graduated. This year, the cup is ours. But maybe you could be generous? Fine, fine, Derek said, extending his hand. Even though I'll probably never get field time, I'll say it anyway. May the best team win. Best team wins, Harry echoed, knocking fists with him. Sorry, Ron said suddenly, voice low. The other three turned to stare. I mean it, Ron said louder, cheeks turning red. We ran into Hagrid the other day. He told us that friends should matter more than broomsticks or rats. He also said what you did for Buckbeak, going to Dumbledore and all. I feel like an idiot. I should have. Hermione burst into tears. Don't cry, I didn't mean. Ron stammered helplessly, but Hermione stamped her foot, then threw her arms around his neck. Oh, Ron, you really are an idiot. So, does that mean I'm forgiven? Ron asked, baffled, glancing at Harry for guidance. Of course. Crookshanks was at fault too, and I was far too stubborn, Hermione sniffled, and I'm sorry about Scabbers, truly. Don't mention him, Ron muttered, trying to steer away. Sirius promised me a new pet. What do you think I should ask for? You three can debate that later, Derek called from outside. If we don't get moving, our gargoyle friend here will lose his patience. I was beginning to think no one noticed, the stone guardian grumbled. The trio jumped, then hurried down the steps. You'll want time to talk things over. I'll leave you to it, Derek said with a wave. I'll hide out in the library for a while. If I go back to the common room now, Cedric will drag me straight to practice. Thanks, Derek, Ron blurted as Derek turned away. His blush had faded to a softer pink, and Derek found the red hair and red cheeks oddly amusing. I'll give you one in return, Mr. Weasley, Derek said with mock gravity. If you ever feel like repaying a favor, do it by cheering for Hufflepuff in the final. With that, he strode off toward the library. The resolution of Sirius's case left Derek in excellent spirits for days. The year felt nearly perfect. The innocent vindicated, the guilty exposed, and justice balanced. By Tuesday morning, his mood reached its peak. During breakfast, the great hall was showered with owls carrying the Daily Prophet. Papers spread across the tables. Students leaned together, chattering excitedly. Incredible! This has rattled all of Britain, Cedric exclaimed. The Potter's loyal friend turning out to be the traitor. It's a slap right across the ministry's face. The ones who gave him the Order of Merlin must be losing their minds. The worst of it's fudge, Ernie added eagerly, tapping the paper with his fork. Listen, this 12-year miscarriage of justice exposes the ministry's incompetence at the highest levels. Minister Fudge must be held responsible. Brutal, isn't it? I wonder what kind of compensation Black will demand, Susan mused. 12 years in Azkaban. If you put a price on that, the ministry will bleed gold. Trust me, he won't ask for money, Derek said with a smirk, remembering Sirius's haughty wand. I'm rich enough attitude in his loathing of the ministry. When he makes his demands, they'll be begging him to take the gold instead. But by Wednesday's potions class, Derek's cheer had begun to fade. Snape was not a man known for magnanimity, and he clearly resented Derek's blunt words in the headmaster's office, as well as his role in aiding Sirius Black. Remembering Snape's expression the night Sirius's name was raised, Derek strongly suspected that in his youth, Black had stolen something precious from him. Still, Derek's brewing was flawless. Every third-year potion he attempted came out perfect, and so it was Hufflepuff as a whole that bore the cost. By the end of 2 hours, their house had lost nearly 50 points. The little badgers trudged out of the dungeon, heads hanging low. That still wasn't the worst news. Before that evening's training, Cedric told them their chaser, Castor, would miss the final due to health problems. What kind of illness could Madame Pomfrey not cure? Zacharias' eyes bulged in shock. In yesterday's charms class, Cedric explained, Ravenclaw's reed misfired. His spell froze Castor solid, locked him inside a block of vinegar ice. It wasn't too bad, Caravalad quickly reassured the terrified Geraint. Professor Flitwick freed him in a second. The only trouble is the lingering effects. Now Castor shivers uncontrollably, Cedric added gravely. Pomfrey says it'll take 2 weeks before he steadies. That won't do. Picture him trembling mid-air in the final. Gryffindor would laugh themselves hoarse. So, his gaze shifted to Derek at his right. We can't risk it. You'll play Chaser in the final, Derek. Every head turned. Their eyes met, and the same question rose silently in everyone's heart. Unfazed, Cedric moved on to training plans. Your throwing arm is excellent, but your flying's only average. Time is short. I'll drill your dodging. The Weasley twins will target you first, mark my words. Once you're down, we'll have no substitute chaser. And another thing, we must protect. His voice flowed on, but the whole locker room kept glancing between him and Derek, like spectators watching a tennis match. 5 minutes later, Sharpie broke. And the broom captain? Who's flying the firebolt? There's no debate there, Derek said calmly. Harry has a firebolt, so Cedric must ride one too. Otherwise, how will he catch the snitch? Everyone except the two of them let out a sigh of relief. No, I'm returning the broom, Cedric said evenly. Don't argue. Hear me out. I know the snitch is critical, but remember, we enter this match with a 220-point lead. That means unless Gryffindor pulls more than 70 points ahead, Potter won't dare seize it. You mean to use the firebolt to bolster our quaffle attack? Derek slowly realized. With it, Gryffindor can't stop our scoring. Harry's firebolt loses its edge. He can't aid his team that way. Clever. But without catching the snitch, the game won't end. Zacharias frowned. What, we just drag it out? Of course not. I'll still end it. Cedric's brows lifted. Think it through. The firebolt is the swiftest broom alive. Derek could storm the hoops clutching the quaffle. No one but Potter could bar him. Gryffindor will have to shackle him. But the moment Potter leaves to stop Derek, I gain the space to hunt the snitch, and I will take it. So that's why you're honing my evasive flying, Derek suddenly understood. As long as I stay in play, I'm a threat pulling Potter's focus. He gave Cedric a thumbs up. You're devious. Listen, Cedric gathered them close. After the last match, it's clear we're weaker than Gryffindor. Head on, we can't outmatch them. But Quidditch isn't only skill, it's strategy. This gives us the best chance I can see. It's risky, yes, but if we fight with all we have, victory will be ours. Hufflepuff will triumph. Hands stacked together, they roared. Hufflepuff will triumph. Chapter 24, the final Korok. On the eve of the match, the Hufflepuff common room pressed with storm-brewing tension. Beneath the noisy chatter ran an edge of unease. The players sat ringed in the softest chairs, each clutching a bottle of butterbeer, drinking in silence. Cedric crouched before a model pitch, his wand commanding tiny figures across it, scribbling and muttering over parchment. Beside him, Derek nearly suffocated beneath the pressure and turned to practicing occlumency. Closing his eyes, he steadied his mood, letting thoughts still until his mind went blank. Perhaps his subconscious craved respite, for this time he slipped quickly into emptiness, his awareness plunging down a tunnel of darkness. The blackness shifted, unfolding into a boundless realm of rolling hills. Awareness coalesced into a body. His feet struck cracked earth, knees bending to absorb the quake. He walked the fractured land. Hills rose and fell. Light flickered from bright to dim, and the horizon had no end. Then a shadow loomed, and overhead he saw a vast sea of blue. Within it, a reflection of himself, clear as crystal. It was Derek! He snapped awake, back in the common room, half slumped in his chair, nearly falling. His neck ached, his back was slick with cold sweat. Don't doze off here. Cedric stood before him, pulling him upright. Go to the dorm. I'll wake you at dawn. Derek glanced about. The room was empty. The once blazing hearth now glowed faintly red, their shadows cast long upon the wall. What time is it? He muttered, rubbing his head, chasing the dream. Midnight, Cedric answered curtly. What are you still doing up? Derek tilted his head back, making sure the ceiling above was still painted in yellow and black. Did you doze off like I did? I was double-checking broom specs again. Cedric waved the parchment in his hand. The firebolt really does have an overwhelming edge. You'll need to. Fly less in straight lines. Keep weaving so Gryffindor can't predict the route. And always watch for Caravelad's bludger warnings. Derek shook his head as though refreshing his memory. I remember it clearly. I'll do my best. Good then, get some proper sleep. Cedric's tone tightened after half a minute of silence. Good night. The next morning, when Derek and the rest of Hufflepuff's team entered the Great Hall, they were met with a wave of applause. From the Ravenclaw table, Cho and her friends were clapping as well. Derek couldn't resist sneaking a glance at Cedric, but was let down to see his expression hadn't shifted at all. Passing the Gryffindor table, a number of upper years jeered loudly. Cedric urged his players to eat a hearty breakfast, though he didn't touch a bite himself. Then, before the others were finished, he pushed their plates away and drove them toward the pitch to check the ground. As they left, applause followed them out. "Go, Derek!" Hermione called, earning herself a round of glares from housemates. "What are you doing? He's the enemy today," Ron hissed, tugging her sleeve. Then, glancing nervously around, he shouted too, "Don't choke, Derek! Go for it!" The unease pressing on Derek's chest evaporated at once. Cedric strode across the pitch, the team at his heels, sweeping his eyes across the stands. The castle gates opened, and students poured onto the grass. "Locker room," Cedric ordered curtly. Inside, the players donned their canary yellow robes. Outside, the stands were already deafening. Half the crowd waved black and gold banners painted with badgers or slogans like Hufflepuff to victory and Go Badgers. Professor Sprout sat front and center, draped in yellow, flailing her hands in excitement. The other half of the stands glowed scarlet, lions roaring on their banners, roses pinned to their robes. "Here comes Gryffindor!" Lee Jordan's voice boomed across the pitch as commentator, just as always. Potter, Bell, Johnson, Spinnet, the Weasley twins, and Wood, widely regarded as Hogwarts' strongest lineup in years. His words drowned in a roar of boos from the Hufflepuff stands. And now Hufflepuff, led by Captain Diggory, a completely rebuilt squad, with substitute chaser Greedo taking the field today. Looks like they'll rely more on rookie energy than on raw skill or experience. That earned a storm of jeers from the Badgers' side, though Derek had to admit Jordan wasn't wrong. Against Gryffindor's seasoned squad, Hufflepuff's youth showed. 3 of their 7 players had only started this term, himself included. "Captains, shake hands!" Madam Hooch barked. Cedric and Wood stepped forward, locking eyes with such venom it was as though they meant to duel right then and there. "Mount your brooms! 3, 2, 1. 14 brooms shot skyward. Madam Hooch's whistle was lost beneath the explosion of the crowd. Derek and Harry climbed faster and higher than anyone else. Adjusting the wind-warding goggles Ernie had given him, Derek straightened his back against the sudden surge of gravity, cold wind whipping his black hair flat against his skull. Oh my! Hufflepuff has made a stunning shift in strategy. Captain and Seeker Diggory has given the firebolt to Greedo. Does this mean Hufflepuff won't be chasing the snitch at all? I'd say. The commentary, the crowd, the wind, everything vanished from Derek's ears. He leveled his broom, leaned forward, and rocketed past Madam Hooch. In a heartbeat, his hand closed around the bright red quaffle. No nerves, no stiffness, no fear. He ducked under someone's outstretched arm, tucked the quaffle tight under his arm, and streaked toward the goal hoops. Closer, closer. Wood braced himself. Derek swung hard, hurling the ball toward the far right hoop. Whoosh! Sound crashed back. The Hufflepuff stands erupted into frenzied cheers, waves of yellow surging as students jumped and shouted. What blistering speed, and what a vicious angle on that shot. Beautifully done. Greedo scores. 10-0, Hufflepuff in the lead. Let's see how Gryffindor answers. Come on, lads. Derek's heart thundered in elation. His first ever Quidditch goal, and it felt natural, as though he had been a chaser all along. He shifted pace, veering back, lining up to shadow Katie Bell. The quaffle's in play. Wood sends it out. Angelina grabs it, dives in a sharp curve at midfield, gorgeous pass to Spinnet. She's racing for the hoops. Looking good, Alicia. Watch yourself. Bludger from Geraint. She's forced off. Passes back to Katie. Look out, Katie. Behind you. Derek darted in at Bell's side, reaching for the quaffle. Jordan's warning had her twist her back, shielding it from his grasp. Katie's sharp, holds possession, but Greedo's dogging her hard. Pass off. Angelina again. She swerves, dodges Smith. Yes, success, and she scores. 10-10, all tied. Angelina Johnson soared the length of the pitch, fist pumping the air, the scarlet sea below shrieking with joy. "Don't stop! Press the attack!" Cedric bellowed, flying nearby. With Hufflepuff's 220-point cushion before the match, Cedric was in no rush for Harry to grab the snitch. So long as Gryffindor wasn't leading by 70, he could play the board and command at leisure. Hufflepuff pressing forward, shabby passes to Smith, great play. Fred, or George, one of the Weasleys just took a bludger to the back of the head, that's gotta sting. Alicia scoops the loose ball. Shabby dives to intercept, collision. Quaffle's loose, Greedo on it, blinding speed. He keeps it, no pass. Straight at the hoops. Come on, Wood. He jukes left, flings it, scores. Hufflepuff 20-10 in the lead. Derek grinned wide, waving at the stands. Then a Weasley bat sent a bludger screaming his way. He rolled hard to dodge. The scoreline stayed locked as both sides traded goals. In terms of teamwork and tactics, Gryffindor held the edge. Their seamless passing broke through time and again, and Hufflepuff struggled to keep pace. Yet Hufflepuff had one unstoppable weapon, the firebolt. Once Derek got hold of the quaffle and tore for the hoops, his blistering speed and sharp throws made it nearly impossible for Wood to save. Realizing this, Gryffindor quickly dispatched a Weasley to dog Derek's tail, brandishing his bat menacingly, ready to smash a bludger into him at any moment. But the effort was wasted. Derek was simply too fast, leaving him far behind. Up in the air, the Seekers had become little more than spectators. Harry had strength without opportunity. Cedric opportunity without strength. With the score swinging back and forth, both of them nearly yawned from boredom. Score stands at 120-100. Gryffindor up by 20. Jordan droned into the mic. Chasers blazing, Seekers idle. Will this turn into a battle of endurance? At this rate, the game could drag on for a month. If either side wants victory, their captains must change the flow. Both stands erupted with cheers at his words. 5 minutes later, Gryffindor called a timeout. The board read 140-130, with Derek alone having racked up 90 of Hufflepuff's points. Brilliant work. Cedric pulled him into a rough headlock the moment they landed. They're rattled. They're shifting tactics. Once Potter's attention locks on you, buy me a few minutes. Hold him off, and I'll seize the snitch. Exhaustion clung to every Hufflepuff save Cedric, yet they still pressed together, shouting with raw voices, "Hufflepuff will triumph." Sure enough, when play resumed, the Weasley shadowing Derek peeled away to cover Cedric instead, while Harry began circling Derek, tailing his every move. The effect was instant. Harry's constant interference kept Derek from hitting top speed. Without that edge, he was only a sharp-eyed thrower with middling flying skills. In 10 minutes, Gryffindor pulled ahead, 200-140. Their fans roared louder with every point, while Hufflepuff's ranks sagged with unease. Jordan's commentary swelled with excitement. Smith streaks for goal. Wood is calm. Save! Quick throw to Angelina. Alicia, Katie, back to Angelina. Good girl. Go again. Scored. Gryffindor leads 210-140, up 70. Keep it up, Griff. Wait, what's that? Above the stands, Cedric suddenly banked hard, twisting into a string of sharp turns. He broke free of the Weasley tailing him and shot like an arrow toward the Hufflepuff hoops, toward a flicker of gold. Every eye locked on the snitch as it shimmered near the goalpost. The stadium erupted, Diggory's diving. He's after the snitch! Dodges a bludger. Harry, go! Catch him! Jordan shrieked into the mic. Move, Derek. Harry shouted in frustration. But they were already too close. Just as Harry had tangled him 10 minutes earlier, now Derek tangled Harry, arms, legs, and broomsticks clashing as he threw all his weight into slowing him down. Smith's blocking Harry. Gryffindor, someone get in Diggory's way. Jordan's voice cracked. Too late. 3 seconds later, Cedric hurled himself forward, hands flying from his broom. And then, yes! He pulled up with the snitch gleaming in his fist. The stands detonated in sound. The 6 other Hufflepuffs darted to his side, crashing into embraces midair as they spiraled down, shrieking, "We won! We've got the cup!" until their voices broke. On the ground, yellow and black surged past the railings, flooding the pitch. Hands pounded their backs like rain, the roar of bodies and voices closing in. The team was hoisted onto shoulders, borne aloft above the mob. Professor Sprout, eyes shining with tears, led the throng up toward the stands, where Dumbledore stood waiting, the massive Quidditch cup in hand. Cedric passed the trophy to Derek, who raised it high. The crowd erupted, screaming, leaping, thrashing like madmen. And in that moment, Derek understood at last the true, wild magic of the game. Chapter 25, and winning the Quidditch Cup left Derek in high spirits, a mood that lingered for at least a week. Even Snape's dreadful potions lessons couldn't dampen it. It felt as though even the weather had joined the celebration. As June arrived, the skies grew clear, hot, and cloudless. Everyone longed to stroll outside with a few pints of chilled pumpkin juice, to lie in the shade, play a lazy round of exploding snap, or simply watch the giant squid drifting dreamily across the lake. But none of that was possible. Exams loomed, and instead of basking outdoors, students were forced to remain indoors, resisting the heavy summer breeze wafting through the windows and driving their brains to work at full capacity. Ernie and Justin, every night before bed, clutched the firebolt in rapture, swearing they would abandon their books to fly for hours the next day. Yet by morning, they were still hunched over Derek's notes, reciting miserably, as though swarms of hornets had taken up residence in their heads. Fifth and seventh years were back in the suffocating atmosphere of the days before the Quidditch final, now bracing for their OWLs and NEUTs. These were Hogwarts' highest-level examinations, and anyone serious about their future treated them with grave importance. Nerves frayed, tempers grew short. A single disturbance in the common room at night was enough to earn murderous glares. Cedric had his hands full trying to maintain order. His own burdens were no lighter. Between OWLs, prefect duties, and Quidditch captaincy, he looked even more exhausted than some of the seventh years. Watching them cram so frantically, Derek couldn't help but recall the will his grandfather had left him, the very thing that revealed the truth of the world and brought him to Hogwarts. His curiosity about the vault's inheritance only deepened. For a fleeting, reckless moment, he even wondered if he could forge a report card. "You look worn out," Derek said, sliding into the seat beside Cedric. "Want me to lend a hand?" "What?" Cedric blinked tiredly. "Oh, if you've got time, could you finish this patrol log for me? Filch wants it right after finals." "This thing's pointless." Derek stuffed arithmancy and syntax into his bag, laid out his quill and ink, and opened the log. Apart from Black's one break-in, it's been calm all year. "Tell me about it, but Filch has been badgering me for a week. He needs it for records," Cedric grimaced. "I haven't had a moment's rest since the term began. Prefect, Quidditch captain, and Sprout's been encouraging me to shine, saying I've a good shot at becoming head boy in seventh year. Add Quidditch on top of that, and it's madness. Sometimes I wish I could just graduate early." "You sound almost proud of yourself," Derek laughed. "By the way, how's OWL prep going?" "Not bad," Cedric said. "Dad wants me to get straight O's. Same for NUT. He says perfect marks will make it much easier to get into the ministry." "That's too soon," Derek frowned. "Graduate at 18 and dive straight into work? No other choices? In the Muggle world, you can study until you're nearly 30, bachelor's, master's, doctorate. 7 years of magical training is plenty." Cedric shook his head. "I want to be an Auror, hunt down dark wizards. That's the dream." "Well then, future Auror Diggory, answer me this. How do I forge my OWL and NUT results?" Derek teased. Cedric gave him a seasoned look. "I've thought about it too, Derek. Every student does, right before exams. But it's impossible. The examiners are all veteran wizards. They've seen every trick in the book. Cheating during the test? Forget it. And once the papers are marked, the results are copied threefold. One for the student, one for the ministry, one for Hogwarts. What, you planning to bribe the headmaster or a ministry official?" "Fair point," Derek admitted, scratching his ear and dropping the idea. Exam week began, and an eerie silence fell over the castle. Monday morning's arithmancy exam. Derek polished off 2 scrolls of number charts in half an hour flat. Professor Vector showered him with praise. Before lunch came transfiguration. No trouble at all. Derek flawlessly performed every task, from turning a teapot into a tortoise to more advanced changes. Professor McGonagall awarded him full marks on the spot. Hermione, however, fretted endlessly that her tortoise looked more like a terrapin, driving Ernie and Justin to near fury. Straight after lunch was Charms, centered on the cheering charm. Having had Claire cast it on him repeatedly last Christmas, Derek understood it well. He performed perfectly on Ernie, leaving him grinning from ear to ear. Professor Flitwick awarded them an outstanding. Harry, on the other hand, went a bit overboard. Ron, his partner, collapsed into uncontrollable hysterics and had to be carried off until he calmed enough to attempt the spell himself. Compared to his